Welcome back, folks, to the insurance panel. With me again, it looks like he came just from the field. Purple shirt man himself, Nick Frumpkin.
That's
and purple shirt himself,
Oh, yeah.
Matthew Murray. Way to coordinate that today,
That's
buddy.
right.
We're getting.
We really did. Yeah. It's like we planned these things.
Yeah. Well, we planned to record a week ago. We didn't, and then we
No, we did not.
Well, no, but we're getting better.
People.
Yeah. Well, they need to know.
Yeah.
It's our fault.
Ish. Every time I talk to somebody, they're like, "Hey, when's the next time that you've got a video coming out?" I'm like, "Soon," and that's always like 3 weeks from whenever I say soon.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but
we are trying.
Yeah, and hopefully by the time that you've watched this video, you've watched the one with Dave Duford, which was awesome.
Yes, they should come out in that order. Hopefully.
If not, we're firing Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We won't.
We'll see.
We won't fire Ryan, but yeah, they should come out.
We love you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
They'll come out in the right order. But that video was awesome. I
agree.
I think Dave has like a different way of thinking about things, or like he looks at it in a different view, kind of thinking outside the box, which is incredible. It's all things, I was listening to a video this morning about we all have the same knowledge. It's just you have to do long thinking to access like more knowledge, right? And that's what Dave does well. So appreciate you, Dave. Speaking of thinking, right? Sometimes you have to think about what you're doing when you're underwriting a client. It's awful. That's what I came up with. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm so sorry.
Oh, golly. Okay.
Everybody. That was the worst one. That could be the worst one. I'm terribly sorry. I'm just trying. I didn't even think about what
trying to transition.
Yeah, trying to transition. 30 seconds before we hit the record button, it was, Matt, we're here. What the heck are we going to talk about? And I go, you know what? I don't know. Let's talk about, and this is something that I think is important, because some people that might be watching this now might have not watched our other videos that come to underwriting, that have like been about underwriting, right? So we have to like almost talk about it again.
We should not assume.
Right. We shouldn't assume that you've watched the 55 hours of content that we have on YouTube.
No.
You should have consumed it.
Although, let's see. Hey, Ryan, can you put a link to the previous video? I think it's called Tools versus Crutches, or maybe down here in the description.
Yep.
Like either an ID card or a tool or a link, one of those places.
If you
haven't, both.
If you haven't, go watch it or continue to watch this video and you'll learn a little bit about underwriting. I think the one thing I want to talk about is the importance of like understanding how to navigate in between each carrier. And we've said this before, and I like your ideology on this, which is early on, don't go get every carrier possible. Why?
Oh gosh, so many reasons.
When it pertains
it's
to underwriting.
Overwhelming for one. Oh yeah, for underwriting purposes, it's overwhelming.
Yeah,
it's overwhelming. Like you don't want to be approaching things from the perspective of, okay, I'm sitting with this client and they have this and this and this and this. Who takes that? Right.
Right.
You want to be coming at it from the perspective of, I want to write this carrier. Will this client fit into this carrier? No, they've got COPD. Okay, well then who's the carrier that I have that takes COPD? Okay, this carrier takes COPD. Do they have any other questions that would knock them out? Yes, they also take insulin. Okay, so who's the carrier that I have that takes COPD and insulin? Okay, this is the carrier that I have that takes COPD and insulin, right? You want to be eliminating, you want to be subtractive, I think is what I've called it in the past. You want to do subtractive underwriting, where you're starting from the supposition that you are going to write a carrier until you get to a knockout question, and then you move on to the next carrier, and then you get to the next. So you should start with just one carrier. I think agents don't want to do this. Agents don't want to do this. You should start off going into the field in an ideal world with one carrier, not even a GI carrier, just one carrier. And You either write somebody with that carrier or you do not write somebody with that carrier. And you will not write business occasionally. And it will cost you money. And that cost of doing business and that money that you didn't write is the cost of your education. And you keep notes on the reasons why you could not write somebody with that carrier for health concerns. And then once you've done that for several weeks, you take the most common health concerns that you were not able to write with that one carrier, and you add a second carrier. And you write only those two carriers, and so on and so forth. Nobody's going to do this. I don't expect anybody watching this video to do this.
You've said this before.
But in an ideal world, and still nobody does this. I didn't come up with this, and still nobody does this. Like, this is not just me. Nothing I say on here is me. Like, I'm not this creative font of final expense wisdom. This has all been figured out by people before us. It's just a matter of finding the people to actually talk to that know how to make this work. But that's the ideal way to do it. The more realistic way to do it that most agents will do is they'll probably go out ideally with one carrier, one backup carrier, and a GI company. Mm-hmm. That's probably the compromise that most agents will make, and that's okay. It'll slow your learning process. You won't be as fast. You won't learn as fast. You probably won't write more business, but you will feel like you have more of a safety net. The reality of what most agents do, and they do this mostly because their agencies push them to do this, is they will
Oh, you cut out. There you go.
Yeah, my phone rang.
Yeah.
I'm turning Bluetooth on my phone off. They'll contract with like 25 carriers. Everybody. Mm-hmm. And then they need to go purchase something that does underwriting for them and does potentially underwriting and quoting for them. And there's several of those on the market now. There was only one when we did the last video. But there's like 3 or 4 of them now. CSG is the most famous of the ones that will do that. None of them do it totally well. All of them underwrite incorrectly to a certain extent. And you will never learn or grow confident in your underwriting abilities using those. But that's what's the reality of what most people watching this are going to do and have done. And I know this because everybody tells me that this is what they do.
So
everybody,
just so you know, you said something that you're not like this final expense, like you're a final expense savant. Is that the word? Is that a good word? I don't know. Who knows? It sounds like
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's what you mean, but I don't feel like I'm a final expense savant. I'm just a person who paid attention when I was told how to do things.
Right. Like, yeah. Well, you paid attention. So I keep telling people it is not a job. There's a lot of young people getting this business. Mm-hmm. And I say that like I'm not 30, right? Like I'm still young. But I got to know it's 25.
You are.
I see a lot of 21, 22, 23-year-olds getting into this business. And to me, that's young now. I could say that.
You can, yes.
Okay. But what I mean
is... You're married, you're an old man now.
Yeah. But what I mean is they are treating this like it's a job.
Right.
Right. And they should they should treat it like the career it is. Early on, even when I was selling for one company, I was doing what you were saying. I was only selling for the one company that I could. And I realized that I couldn't write COPD. I realized I couldn't write something with blood thinner. I realized I couldn't write diabetic neuropathy. I realized I couldn't write, these, I think they actually take overweight. They don't have any height and weight chart. But I realized
that company does not.
Yeah. I realized that all those things were like I was trying to push the square peg in a circle hole or whatever the term is, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I know that there's other companies out there. This is not the only life insurance company. I'm for sure. Mm-hmm. And I did research.
Right.
I did research on my own. I didn't go to an online forum and go, who takes this? Who takes this? I studied. I found the underwriting guides from other companies and learned what took what and why. So I got really good before I even went independent. So when I went independent, I didn't have the same problem that a new agent has because I understood underwriting very well. Most agents are just going
Mhm.
out there and they're treating it like it's a job and it's a career. You have a
Yeah.
license. Like you have the same, like you have a license. It's like, and I the term is used a lot, but it's like a doctor has a license. You have a license. Like in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
and a lot of times, final expense agents, Medicare agents that have these licenses make more money than doctors.
Oh yeah.
It's insane.
Absolutely.
It's insane.
Absolutely.
And so you have this license and you only want to work from like 10 to like 5:30. And it just
Right.
it just doesn't work. It won't it won't work. You gotta really like go out and learn these companies. You know, sit at like when I was doing it, like I would sit at home and I would like read on my phone these underwriting guidelines and figure out the difference between term and whole. And I would watch videos of other people explaining the difference between term and whole in Universal. And I
Mhm.
learned my presentation over the course of 6 months or a year. And I still today, if I take a new agent out and they say something in the house, I'm like, oh, that's really smart. I'm going to take that and put it into my bag. I'm
Sure.
constantly learning. You're constantly learning.
Absolutely.
Constantly learn is what I'm trying to tell you. Like treat this business like the career
Yeah.
it is, and you'll be successful. I got one for you, Nick.
Mhm.
76-year-old female, diabetic
Okay.
neuropathy in the state
Okay.
of South Carolina, where Trinity is not. Okay,
Right.
it's important. Like they're everywhere
Okay.
but South Carolina, which is really weird. I love them to death. There's not there. Um,
Right.
76-year-old diabetic neuropathy uh, with insulin use. Who you writing them with?
Royal neighbors.
Over 75. They don't take them. They stopped writing over
Royal neighbors
75.
not taking people over 75 anymore?
Nope.
When did they do that? I stopped writing
Uh,
royal neighbors, so I
Recently,
guess that's me.
like
That's on me.
within the last couple
Yeah.
months. Yep.
Ooh. Yet another. Oh, I won't go off on royal neighbors. Sometimes insurance companies don't actually want to be in the final expense business, but they don't have the nerve to actually pull the product.
So they just make it
And there
awful.
are companies that we may or may not have been just talking about that are in that position. Um, let's see, who else is diabetic neuropathy? So
Over 2 years diabetic neuropathy.
Transamerica.
I'll give you that. Over 2 years diabetic
I, I
neuropathy.
would I would say Transamerica from the companies that I tend to write. There might actually be a better option, but here's the thing: I have like 3 other options that you don't have in South Carolina that I can write
Ex-
them with where I am.
exactly. That's the difference, right? So there's
So I could write them here in penalty. Right, I'd write them with Family Benefit, or I'd write them with KSKJ Life, or
right,
like there's a bunch of options. Greek
right.
Catholic Union. Does Greek Catholic Union take diabetic neuropathy? I think they do.
Yes, but if
I'm
they
still learning
if
them.
it's insulin use, it's standard.
That's
It's
level.
still no, it's fine. Yeah, it's level. But I think
Yeah,
if you went
their standard rates
KSKJ,
are pretty good.
yeah, but if you went KSKJ, you could probably get them a preferred.
Well, yeah, I mean, KSKJ's standard rates blow them out of the water. KSKJ's standard rates are lower than Rural Neighbors rates. So um,
I get it. Whatever.
KSKJ is a good company. I like KSKJ.
They're an awesome company. I wish I could write them. I can't. Um,
So yeah, I know.
so other than so you're right on Transamerica, I believe. There's another company.
Yeah, no, definitely right on Transamerica. But there's another company. Who were you thinking of
Liberty Bankers.
with diabetic neuropathy?
If it's
Since when?
over 2 years, diabetic neuropathy will go through.
Have you actually tried that?
I did it last night. My younger brother was in a house.
Really?
We did it. We had it in a house, and a friend of the show who was on the show,
Mm-hmm.
Dusty Edwards,
Sure.
made this underwriting guide, and we pulled it up. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like diabetic neuropathy, and Transamerica was one, and Royal Neighbors was one, but he didn't update it since the over 75.
Right.
Liberty
Yeah.
Bankers said preferred if over 2 years. And I was like, no way. We pulled the app, and
Current treatment, even with current treatment, like they're actively taking gabapentin and insulin.
yep,
Oh, look at Liberty Bankers getting their underwriting going better.
preferred.
That's new.
Preferred.
That's pretty awesome. Good for you, Liberty Bankers.
Good for you, Liberty Bankers. It was good. It was good.
Yeah, it's great.
I was excited. He was excited, obviously, because he got $124 a month premium. So
heck yeah.
why not be? But do you see what happened is Nick listened to everything that I was telling him, and he went, Royal Neighbors, over 75. Oh, Transamerica, right? He boxed out.
Right.
It's called like box lending. When I was in finance, it was like box lending. If you had this crappy credit with this much income, I could get you this amount of loan. You fell into this specific box. Same thing that Nick does on underwriting. He knows what company he's going to go with first, and then depending on how bad the situation or how good the situation is, it'll fall in a different category.
Yeah, and my thought process was literally, okay, I'm sitting down with somebody. I would like to write them with family benefit because that's probably who I'm going to try to write them with first.
That's why I said.
And then he said they're in South Carolina, and so I can't do family benefit. And then you said diabetic neuropathy, and I went, oh well, I can't do KSKJ either, who would be my second choice. So who's my third choice, which would be Royal Neighbors, also would be my next choice because they don't have any knockouts in that situation. Mm-hmm. Except they're over 76, which again, oh well. But shame on Royal Neighbors for stopping taking people over 76 due to COVID. Is that the reason they stopped?
I think it was due to COVID. A lot of COVID deaths. I think a lot of people had a scare. A lot of people, this is what I do know. A lot of people turn to Royal Neighbors to do phone sales. So there's a limit. Most people don't know this. There's a limit of how many applications, like they get over their reassurance limit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. If a company takes
that's probably
so many applications,
is the phone sale.
Yeah, so many people are doing phone sales, and Royal Neighbors is actually a pretty easy app to do over the phone. You just call in, you have the worksheet, done, right?
Yeah.
Well, so many people are pushing them, it gets them over their reassurance limit, and they're like, hey, we don't really want any more business. So if they tear it down, it'll stop, X amount of percent coming in. The more you know.
Yeah.
What about Aetna?
Like I said, I don't write them anymore because I don't need to, and oh well. But
what about Aetna or CVS? Have you looked in their underwriting? I really haven't.
I haven't really. I there's something at the back of my mind that says I think they would take it also, but I don't know how they would look at diabetic neuropathy. Legitimately, again, I've not really needed to write them. Like it just doesn't come up.
Sure.
I write the companies I write at this point. Like there was a time when I really wanted to know the underwriting for every company that was out there, but at this point, I write the small handful of companies that I write, and then I move on. If I need to pick up a new carrier, I learn that carrier's underwriting. It makes my life simpler. It's easier, and this is important. Especially as a new agent who doesn't have a long track record, it establishes a relationship between you and the carrier. Mm-hmm. Unless you're talking like your primary carrier is a behemoth like Transamerica or Mutual of Omaha or something like that. If you're working with any of the smaller carriers and you're putting $2,000 of business with them a week, you don't have to put that much with them for them to start noticing you. They will notice quickly.
Yeah.
They will notice quickly, and that's not a bad thing. And it's easier to put $2,000 a week with a carrier if you're writing almost all of your business with that carrier, right? Mm-hmm. And it is amazing how beneficial that can be in terms of like sometimes you need something FedExed to a client. Mm-hmm. And maybe they'll do that for you where they wouldn't do that for a random Joe agent,
Maybe there's
there are benefits.
Yeah, but there's a very small endorsement. You forgot to do one little check mark, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like normally the behemoth would send it back and make you almost redo the entire application.
Make again.
Right?
Yep.
But when I was working with a company called GPM, Government Personnel Mutual,
Hmm.
who actually surprisingly still has good rates. Look that one up too.
Hmm.
I was rating them a lot, and I knew Inez.
Not a talked about company,
No, they're out of
but yeah,
Texas. I think San Antonio, Texas. Great people, but I was
yeah,
putting.
they're
I think I was putting maybe $2,000, $2,500 a week with them,
hmm
right? And I would upload applications, and Inez, who I hope still works there, and if you ever see this, Inez, hello, miss you very much. I don't write them anymore, but she would call me and thank me for my business. And I'm
hmm
not kidding you. I would upload stuff at 8 a.m. because I had this weird thing where like I would come home. I didn't want to have to deal with uploading applications then, so I would just wait till the next morning. So I'd have it all uploaded by 8. And I'm not kidding you. The stuff would get issue paid like by 10. I was like the first person
yeah,
that they took my applications first and like did mine and got it
mhm,
done because I did so much
yeah.
business with them. So
Because there's value in becoming somebody who is known, as writing business and writing good business also.
mhm.
Like that's the other thing, like you do this long enough, you're going to run into some problems. You're going to run into stuff where policies get rescinded or things like that happen. And I'm not going to say that it's going to save you from a chargeback if your policy gets rescinded on a death claim, but you know, having a good relationship with the carrier and having them be like, hey, I know you're a person that writes good business most of the time. I know that you're a person who doesn't get a lot of death claims. I know that the death claims we've had have all been legitimate and you haven't been clean sheeting. Having them know that about you is valuable in
Very.
a thousand little ways. Super valuable. Having the ability to know, to have a relationship with some of the vice presidents at these companies and the people in charge of operations and customer service people, it's valuable.
The
Like
senior
if
underwriters.
senior underwriters, if you have issues or if you need to get something questionable talked through or looked at, or if a client has a problem making a payment, sometimes you can talk to people in the accounting department who may know you at that point and might be able to do things for you that they would not necessarily do for other people. um, it's just valuable. It is a two-way street. If you are giving them a lot of your business, they will also, because it's humans, it's you're
Right.
dealing with people, that are running this business, and they're going to think of you favorably if you're sending them good business and you're kind to them when you talk to them, and you say hello and please and thank you, and you don't yell at them every time you get on the phone, and like
I'm actually
it's
still
it's
friends
it's
with
important.
an underwriter from an insurance carrier that eventually saw me on Facebook because it was like people you may know because I talk to them all the time.
Hmm.
And they actually friend requested me on Facebook. And guess what? My stuff got going through even quicker once they saw me.
See, there you go.
Um, don't
Right,
add it. Don't
like
add it,
there's
buddy.
there's just all sorts.
Yeah.
No, but there's just a ton of value in that kind of stuff, though, and you never know where those relationships will go. It's good to know these folks,
Mhm.
because it is at the end of the day a fairly small industry, all the way through, top to bottom.
Super small.
So yeah,
Super, super small.
so
But
which is why we tend to avoid mentioning specific carrier names when we do these recordings, and we're breaking like all sorts of our own internal rules making this video today. Without.
maybe we can have Ryan bleep all the carrier names out.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you in
We'll pay you
advance.
extra for this one.
Thank you in advance for doing the work we just signed you up for. Royal Neighbors,
Yeah,
Royal Neighbors, Transamerica, GCU, Royal Neighbors, Royal Neighbors. Just
yeah.
bleep all that out. It's gonna sound awful. um,
Nobody will be able to understand what the hell we're talking about.
it's gonna be like we're gonna get flagged. We're not gonna be able to run ads because they think we're cursing. But just know
Yeah.
that we're saying a insurance carrier's name, and we really shouldn't, because the point of the show is to talk about what we know is final expense. That's what we enjoy. That's what we love. And really what we try to do is just get content out to you and teach you things, that we hope every new person or every person that might be doing this for a while might change the way they're doing something, because we know it works. If you do what Nick does, it
Mhm.
works. You make so much money. So, speaking of underwriting software and quoters,
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the new juice that has surfaced? Can I just show you? I'm going to show you.
No.
I'm going to show you.
Yes.
Okay.
Show me.
freefexquoter.com.
Okay.
About
This
this
is new.
tool.
When did this come out?
This came out like a day ago. This
Oh,
quoter
wow.
is brought to you by the
like,
makers of Best Plan Pro. For more detailed quotes and health screening, use Best Plan Pro, save $30 a month. So I could put 77, male. I can put in my, my carriers, right?
right.
Face amount is 10,000, 15,000, and
Face amount number 2.
yeah,
Multi-quote. Will it let you money purchase? Probably not.
Say again.
It won't. Will it let you quote by dollar amount rather than by face amount? Probably not. Huh?
Probably not.
Can't put like, $100 a month. What'll it get me?
Not yet. But then it pulls down here, and it's like, here's the lowest company, right? Here's the most expensive. Now, why is 15,000? Duh. This looks a little wonky. Just whoever made this, I think I know who it is. Whoever made this,
Yeah, they're mixing the 10s and the 15s.
Yeah. So
can you sort?
Probably. Ah, here we go. Oh, well, let's just go this way.
No, still not sorting by, because that's confusing.
It's a little confusing. Let's do this. Let's do this. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, if you want to take the company that you kind of want to post to the client, right? Now we take this. There's 10.
Yeah, but Forrester's has their own quoter. If you're going to just be quoting Forrester's, why don't you use the Forrester's branded quoter?
I know. Product by product.
Listen, I don't want to say anything bad about Best Plan Pro or anybody else out there. This
looks better.
My goal. This does look better.
That looks way better.
Yeah, that definitely looks better. I like that it breaks it down with quarterly also. That's nice. I don't know that I've ever had anybody actually decide to go quarterly, but it's nice that the option's there.
Yeah, I get it. But this is just hilarious to me. You know why it's hilarious, right?
Oh, I do know why. Are we allowed to talk about why it's hilarious?
I think that ain't got nothing to do with no carriers.
Okay.
Need leads, need customers, advertising spots for vendors right now. So they want us to. We could put our YouTube channel right here.
Rick, how much does it cost to advertise on this?
Yeah, Rick. Hey, Rick. Agency spotlight. So you can put your agency here. And I also know that you can actually white label this to do your company if you want.
And this is free?
Free.
Oh man.
You know why.
I don't. Yeah. I just. Oh golly, guys, the inner workings of some of this stuff in the final expense business is crazy.
Like I said, this final expense business is very small.
Yeah, it is. This is.
Alrighty then.
This is that is vindictive right there, is what that is.
Yeah. I mean, actually, it's to be in my eyes from a marketing eye point, it's brilliant.
No, it's genius. It's great. I love that they did that. It's
everybody's like, here, pay this for my quota, pay this for my quota. Like, nope, here's a quota for
absolutely.
free. It's not that great, but guess what? You can get the job done with this. If you want
it's
more,
free.
It's free. It's free.
Right. It's free. By the way, everybody else you have to pay like $25 a month or more.
You don't have to share a code no more. You don't have to do that stuff.
Yeah.
It's free. Free.
It's just there. That's great.
So I thought you might find that hilarious as I did, because when I saw that, I cackled. So
yeah.
Rick, Hats
Well
off to
done.
you, my friend. Hats off to you, my friend. Yeah, it's a very small industry, and the underwriting and quoting software people are even smaller.
There's only like 5 of them.
5, exactly. It's very small, and it is.
Yeah, it's a real
really
small.
and it's a really dirty game.
Well, it can be. I want nothing to do with that half of the industry. That's okay.
No.
Good for them. I'm glad there's competition in the space. It will only be better for us as agents.
It's going to improve.
But right now, things are, yeah.
Back in my day, I had a little booklet that I ran quotes from.
I know, right? Had to carry around rate sheets.
But the way I did it was genius. Here, I'll show you what I did, because I think you might find this hilarious. It's like the Southern way. I would sit next to the client, like really close, like this,
and
I'd have my rate book like this, and I'd take my pen and I'd say, "Okay, Miss Jones," and I'm like low to him. I was like, "All right, Miss Jones, you're 70, right?" And they look at me like, Like, "Okay, so that's you right there." They go, And I said, "You don't smoke, right?" And it had, it was per 1,000 rates, so it might be $2 per 1,000, right? So I look, I'm like, "You 70? You don't smoke?" They're like, okay. It looks like it's only $5. And they would go, "For real?" And I'm like, "That's what it says right there." And they would get super happy, and then they go, "Well, how much will that get me?" And I'm like, "Miss Jones, that's only going to get you $1,000 worth of coverage,
$1,000,
right?" And then I'd go, "Well, how many do you want?" Right? And they'd be like, "Well, how much does 10 cost?" This is where the genius comes in. I would take my pen, and I'd go 5 plus 5 equals 10 plus 5 equals 15. And about when I got to 20, right, on like the third adding, they'd go like this. They'd hold my hand and they'd go, "It's about $50, baby." And I'm like, "You are so smart, girl." And I would go, "Oh, I forgot the policy fee, which is like $3, right?" I'm like, "It's $53. That sound good for you?" And they would go, "Yep." Go, "Perfect." And I'd write the application. It worked unbearably, dude. That's how I did it. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. They would think I'm so dumb that they would feel bad for me and they would buy from me. It worked.
I am sure it did. That's the thing. That's the thing.
Well, the thought process.
I remember talking.
The thought process was
thought process
was for like a circle, they look like the Earth, and you would choose your units, right? You would call into this company, and it would be $9.95 for insurance, right? And you would call in, it would be how many units do you want, right? That was the pitch.
Sure. Same thing.
It was the same. That was the logic.
Alex Trebek's company.
The people would know what their budget was, right? So that was my way of like getting the budget, but being really dumb about it and like making them feel bad for me. It worked so well.
I remember talking to one of your agents 2 years ago now, maybe.
Okay.
And doing a phone call with him because I was trying to learn about making Facebook leads, and he was doing some Facebook leads pretty successfully, and I was trying to pick his brain about some stuff, and he said, "So you're doing final expense real well. So like, what's your secret?" And I remember telling him, the secret is they're all laydowns as long as you don't screw it up.
Yep.
I think that particular close is an example of they're all laydowns as long as you don't screw it up. It doesn't screw it up, right?
It doesn't.
It does. It absolutely does not screw it up. There's nothing like there's nothing sophisticated, salesy, persuasion, like body language learning, like stuff going on there. It's just getting out of your own way enough that they're willing to tell you what they want. And once they tell you what they want, the game is over. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
getting their defenses down any way you can so that they can just say, hey, I want life insurance and I can spend $50 a month on it.
Exactly.
And once they say that, it's all over.
You got it.
And all you have to do is not get in the way of getting to that point.
Exactly.
And they're all later.
Yep. That worked totally fine. And the other one I did, and y'all can use this, is I would get the company that I was writing, the one in San Antonio, great company. And they had it to where it was actually like this big sheet, company, like it was like all these things. So I'd go, all right, Miss Jones, I'm gonna show you how this works. I'm gonna give you a pen, right? And I say, look, you're 70 and you don't smoke, so this is your line. I want you to go across that line, and when your pen stops and I see you go like this, I know that's too much for you, and we're gonna go one back, and that's gonna be your price. And they would, I'm not kidding you, they would do exactly what I tell them. They go like this, and all of a sudden their eyes would keep going, but their pen would stop. And I'd use my haptics. I use haptics in the house, so I would like hold them. I'm like, that was too much, wasn't it? And they go, yeah. I said, let's go one back. That's the one you want. Let's go ahead and get it done. And then I would move on with the application. It works.
Yeah. Get them to commit to a budget. That's the whole trick.
Yep. So
that's amazing. Well, this has been a fun one. I like this. I don't know that it's gonna once we've had Ryan chop it up, I don't know that it's gonna make any kind of sense whatsoever. But I love this video. This is my favorite video we've recorded in a really long time.
I was actually, smoking a cigar with a friend from work, and he does like telesales, and he goes, "Tell me about the craziest things that happened in the house." And he was laughing so hard at the stories I was telling him.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm hoping that we can do more stuff like that, because I think you probably have some hilarious stories.
Oh, I'm sure.
It might be good. It might be good stuff.
I mean, I've had some funny, crazy stuff and some scary, crazy stuff and sad, crazy stuff. Ooh, I had a sad one this week. I won't tell that story on camera, but it was sad.
Well, you actually had a pretty decent story. I guess it's kind of sad because of the income.
That's not the same one that I'm thinking of. Are we doing a separate video on that one, or are we gonna?
I think you probably tell that story and kind of tease another video where we tell stories.
All right. Well, yeah. So I talked to a gentleman this week who bought a life insurance policy, and was telling me at the time that he only makes $357 a month, or $356. I don't remember exactly what it is, but was disabled, and his disability check hadn't come through, so he had not been approved for disability, but he could not work, and so he was getting paid from his union $356 a month because he couldn't work. But he was being denied workman's comp even though he was injured on the job. And so he had no savings. And he was just kind of living with a couple of roommates, and he's, in his early 60s. He was turning 63 next week, I think. And so no real prospects to ever do anything again. He had a real terrible back injury, like the whole time that we were in he would go from sitting to standing to kind of leaning over, trying to just get himself into a position where he could like ease his back pain. But he happily purchased a life insurance policy because, he didn't want to stick his brother with his funeral costs if he died. And he said, the last thing I want to do if I die is leave my brother feeling like, why didn't my brother take care of this before he died? Why do I have to come up with $5,000 to pay for my funeral? Yep. And he was otherwise totally healthy enough to qualify for life insurance. I mean, he got $5,000 of life insurance. It cost him $25 a month. He was happy with that. He could afford it. And it was important to him, and it was important to him is the key, yes. Because we do talk to people all the time who make significantly more money. And maybe they have bigger bills. I mean, I don't know their life. I don't know what this guy's life was. I don't know what his bills were. He had roommates. Maybe he wasn't. I mean, but he was living in a real house. He wasn't living in like a fallen down, and but at the same time, I have clients on the books today still who are completely homeless. I wrote them up living in a shelter. And as far as I know, they are still living in a shelter years later, sometimes 4 or 5 years later, who bought a life insurance policy because they didn't want to leave their daughter a bill. Mm-hmm. The nice thing about what we do is it's affordable for pretty much everybody if it's important enough for them. And the sad thing about what we do is there are sometimes people that we talk to who make, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, more, who say, "Oh, my kids can take care of it for me." But they make good money. They make $2,000 a week, and I don't care who you are. $10,000 is a lot of money, unless you're Jeff Bezos. And it's going to cost you more money to stop and write a $10,000 check than it would to keep working. $10,000 is a lot of money for just about anybody.
Yep.
Nobody wants to write a $10,000 check. And it is, again, getting to that point of getting them to admit that it is important and that it's something that they want for their family.
Yes.
And then getting them to commit to a budget, and then the game's over, then it's done. But this guy was so happy, man. I cannot tell you how happy he was. He was one of the happiest people that I have talked to once we were done. Yeah. In a really long time. He was like, "Oh my God, you have no idea how much this has been weighing on my mind." I had an appointment with him, but he was a junior. And the appointment was actually booked with his 90-year-old father accidentally, who had answered the phone. And when my appointment setter said, "Hey, is this Roy?" He said, "Yes, it is." And so he set the appointment with this guy's 90-year-old dad. And so I showed up and he was like, "I have no idea who you are." I was like, "I have an appointment with you." And he said, "But what do you mean you have an appointment with me?" And so I showed him the card and he's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I never talked to anybody yesterday. I do not have an appointment with you, but this is actually my handwriting. And yes, I do actually want to talk to somebody about this. So let's talk."
Yeah.
But, and I left and he started kind of grumpy because, back pain and all that kind of thing. And he was not expecting me to show up at 4:00 at his house yesterday.
Right.
Right. And, but over the course of the conversation, and it wasn't a very long conversation because, again, back pain, he kind of got an idea of what it was we were talking about and why I was there. And yes, he did want this. And yes, he did need this. And no, he didn't think he could qualify for it. And no, he didn't think he could afford it. And I showed him how he could qualify and I showed him how he could afford it. And he must have thanked me 25 times in the 1 minute that it took me to pack my bag and walk out of his house. So happy that we had done this.
That's
these
awesome.
are good ones,
Yeah.
These are good ones. There's sad ones also, I got the guy who charged at me barking like a dog and chased me down his front steps on all fours, running at me, barking like a dog.
Yeah.
I can tell that story later. But
down in the comments, tell us a good story that you had. Tell us something good that happened to you in the field this week or last week or whenever. I don't know when this video goes.
Yeah.
Just what happened.
Post a feel good. Yeah. Post a feel good story.
For sure.
From the last week you were in the field. Something good that happened.
That's awesome.
Let us know you got to the end of the video.
For sure. So thanks again, guys. We'll talk soon. We got another video coming up next week, I hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.